everyone. I hope I have lots of friends that can follow along here this afternoon while I do a live. I'm jumping on to answer any of your crafting questions. If you have any DIY issues that you're having that maybe I can help you out with. And one of my main questions is my Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer method. So if you have any questions with that type of technique, I am more than happy to help you out. So I'm just going to get set up here. There we go. I'll turn my... Okay, we're all set. So in the comments, let me know where you're watching from, and we'll get started. The first thing that I want to show you guys that's new that I just added to my Etsy store is I did a booklet with all of my favorite paint recipes. And if you haven't seen any of my videos with that, check them out. I have this booklet full of chalk paint recipes. Chalk paint, chalkboard paint, baking soda paint, baking powder paint, coffee grind paint, texture paste, one-step paint, sand paint, sawdust paint, homemade gesso, and salt wash paint. All in this booklet. What I love about this is you don't have to go back and try to find my video on when I made salt wash paint. You can just grab this booklet, go to the recipe, and you're ready to start making it and paint. It's a great little booklet. It's in my Etsy store if you want to grab it. And oh my goodness, I got all kinds of people coming on. Jen from Kingston. Actually, Jen, you're not too far from me. I'm just outside of Ottawa. Amy from Atlanta. Sonia in Maine. We got Florida. We got St. Peters, North Carolina, Michigan, Colorado, Iowa, South Dakota. Oh my goodness. And I'm thinking of everyone on the East Coast right now, especially my Canadian East Coast friends. Hope you're all safe and you had minimal damage with the hurricane that's going through. And I know now it's traveling down the southern side. So everybody, I hope you're safe and sound and like I said, minimal damage. Been thinking about all of you. So the first question. So with the inkjet on the reverse graphic transfer, you bake at 200 degrees for 10 minutes. So when you're doing the reverse transfer on an inkjet, you don't need to bake it in the oven. You only need to bake it in the oven if you're going to decoupage it on something and put Mod Podge on top of it when you're decoupaging. Because what happens with the inkjet is it smears when you introduce Mod Podge or polyacrylic to it. So you need to set that ink when you're decoupaging. When you're doing the Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer, you are applying the Mod Podge onto your board or your canvas, and then you're laying your print into it from your inkjet. So you don't need to bake it. That's not going to make a difference when you're doing that technique. You do need to bake it when you're doing when you're decoupaging. Hope that helps. We got Alaska, Florida, Delaware, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arizona. This is amazing. Kimberly in Nova Scotia. Hope you're safe. Hope you didn't have too much damage. Been thinking about all of you. New Zealand. This is excellent. I don't do lives enough because it's I need to do them more often because it's just more personal. You can see where people are watching from and just have more of a personal personal meeting. Have you ever fixed a dresser that is wobbly? Dresser drawers or the legs? So sometimes when I get a piece that I want to upcycle, and I'm notorious for dragging things home, not taking the time to make sure when I pick them up that they're in good, the bones are good and they're in good condition. I get it home and the silly thing is just unrepairable. But what I do then is instead of just giving up on the project, I'll dismantle it and I'll use the drawers, the drawer fronts for signs. I'll use the big panels for signs. I'll cut it up into smaller pieces. So if you do find something that is kind of beyond your ability to be able to fix and make it not wobbly again, don't give up on it. See if someone can help you out. It has maybe more knowledge than you know yourself for putting it back together and getting it solid again. But you can always take it apart and turn it into 20 projects instead of one. just cut pieces of old board to make pumpkins for a craft show. Awesome. Probably one of my favorite DIYs out of every season is 2x4 pumpkins. I don't know what it is about it. I love making pumpkins. And actually I brought this up because you probably have seen this in my videos. This is mine that I kept for myself. But this graphic with all the pumpkin faces on it, it works fantastic for doing the 2x4 pumpkins. And it's one of my best sellers. If you have craft sales or a booth during this time of year, those little 2x4 pumpkins sell amazing. And I also have a tutorial, if you haven't caught it, on how to price your DIY items. It's a very informal way of doing it. It might not work for anybody. If you're doing a project that has all kinds of hours in it, that formula probably isn't going to be the best for you. But for me, my projects that I'm doing, they aren't taking very long to do. So the formula of doing the wholesale and then the retail and how I break it all down, it works perfect for me. And it probably would work best for anyone that's doing the same sort of DIYs I am and then selling them. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. And I actually did a pamphlet of how to price your items. And it gives you everything that you need to know, all the checklists, so you can price it all out yourself. This is in my Etsy store, and it's really valuable to have to be able to write everything down, right from start, right to finish, and then come up with a price for your projects if you want to sell. Really handy little booklet. I just printed this off, and of course, the way that I roll, I'm almost out of ink. And that was even last week that I was talking about still out of ink. And I'm still out of ink. I need to get some. But great little booklet in my Etsy store. If you want to have an easy way to price your DIYs, then you can grab that booklet. Still in the dark, Deborah and PEI. Oh, and you guys might have quite a mess to clean up. I'm hoping that it gets cleaned up fast and you can get some power back. Any advice when working with vellum paper, having a hard time with the inkjet printer and trying to transfer onto wood or other materials? So are you having problems with the actual inkjet print rubbing off when you're using the vellum paper? That's probably one of the main things that you're having go wrong is having it rub off. I think probably the only way that you can maybe fix that is to use a laser jet printer. I know that a lot of my followers don't have a laser jet printer, but that being said, if you are wanting to start selling some of your DIYs and you want to kind of widen what you can do, it's worthwhile grabbing a laser jet printer. It's worth the investment, because especially if you're making little signs or little tags, because I can make a tag with a laser jet printer in 5 minutes, start to finish. Well, not drawing time, but start to finish when I'm rubbing the graphics off. If you're using an inkjet printer, it probably takes double that time because you have to be so careful you're not rubbing off the image. You have to go slower. You have to do smaller areas. So if you are doing a lot of DIY projects, look into getting a laser jet printer. And compared to 5 years ago, the laser jet printers have actually really come down in price and they're really affordable now. I actually just posted one that I saw on sale in my community tab. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And it was a Brother. I have a Brother laser jet printer I've had for probably 5 years. Have had absolutely no problems. It has been perfect. But I found one on Amazon and I put the link in my community post and it was on sale for 16% off. I know it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but I don't usually see them go on sale. So if you go back to the community post after this live, you can check that out. And I think it's the sale is still on. And it was $149, which for a laser jet printer, now it's only black ink. It's not colored ink. I thought that was a fantastic price. So you might want to check that out. Canon has a $300 unit that I love. Yeah, I've seen prices of laser jet printers kind of all over the map. You don't need anything special. This one that I found for $149 will do exactly what you need it to do if you're going to be making, printing on paper or doing graphics or decoupaging. It would work really good. I'm having difficulty not having white paper residue when doing the reverse graphic, and trying to find cheap thinner paper is hard, as you can't tell until you open the package. Do you have any brands? So the brand that I buy all the time is the cheapest Amazon paper that you can find, and it works really well. And if you can find a really cheap computer paper and do a reverse transfer with an expensive piece of white paper and then do a cheap one beside it, you'll see the difference, of course, of how less paper you have to rub off, and it just works much better. So get your hands on really cheap computer paper. The Amazon brand one, I think it's the Amazon Basic is what it's called, and it works really well. Name of my Etsy store. So if you go to any of my videos, if you go down into the description, my Etsy store link will be there. And I'll also, at the end of this live, I'll put the link to my Etsy store there also. And I have all kinds of graphics. Actually, I printed off a whole bunch of my graphics today to show you, because after doing, so my favorite crafting thing is doing the Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer. Love doing that. It's so versatile. You can do so many things with it. You don't need a stencil. You don't need your Cricut. You can just print out your graphic and make anything that you want. My second favorite thing is designing graphics. I love designing graphics. I can sit in front of my computer for hours designing graphics, and I decided when I started up my channel that I should be sharing all of these graphics that I'm making, and I opened up my Etsy store. So a lot of the stuff that I'm creating, all of that is available in my Etsy store. You have a JPEG, a PNG, an SVG. The SVG will work on a Cricut if you want to do any of the graphics on a Cricut. And it also comes with the reverse file. So any graphic that I do, you can use for any type of your crafting projects. How do you use your laser compared to your inkjet? So the only difference between the laser and the inkjet printer is the actual type of ink that it uses. I actually don't really know the chemical reason for it, but I think an inkjet, the ink, actually probably somebody knows more than me about this, but the inkjet will lay on top of the paper, where the laser jet goes right into the paper. And I don't know, it's just magic to me how it works with the laser jet, because when I do put the Mod Podge on it and put it on a piece of wood and rub off the paper and the ink stays on it, that's magic to me. I have no idea why it does it, but it works really well. Thanks, Jen, for putting in the link. That would be awesome. How do you learn so many DIY ideas? I just, it's something that I've always been crafty. Even as a kid, I can remember as a kid sitting on the floor with my Holly Hobby coloring book. And I have two sisters and a little brother, but my two sisters and I would get so mad because my sisters would be coloring too, and they didn't put as much effort and as much staying inside the lines as I did. And I used to get so mad when I was coloring in my Holly Hobby book and trying to make it look completely perfect. And I don't know, I just kind of went from there, just loving working with my hands and crafting and making things. And that kind of actually went into also upcycling. I very rarely, unless I absolutely have to, buy anything new. I'm always, if I need some sort of decor for my home, first thing I do is go to the thrift store, see if I can find something, and then upcycle it to make it work in my home. I very rarely buy new. And I do trial and error. I just try it. If I don't like it, then I'll try another technique. And so when I find something new to try, like a different clay, or I see someone else doing a different transfer method, first thing I do, I come into my room here or out in my shed and I give it a go, and I keep practicing it until I can get it to work myself. And then I share it with you guys. So I guess it's kind of an obsession. There is a confusion concerning acrylic paint versus latex, saying it shouldn't be used for a transfer, but they are referring to oil base. We use, so latex paint work, again, the whole chemistry, I'm not sure of the difference between acrylic and latex. I can I can get the water-based acrylic to work with the transfer method. You have to be really careful and not use very much water, because if you're putting too much water when you're rubbing it off and you're using acrylic paint, you'll rub the acrylic paint off also. The technique works best with a latex paint made into chalk paint. That's what works best for me. On almost all of my DIY projects, I find that my homemade chalk paint works best. Ink is wet ink and laser is cartridge that is dry toner. Okay, so that's kind of what I thought was, what was the difference. I did the same thing with my brother and sister when decorating the Christmas tree. Oh my gosh, Christmas tree, and trying to get obsessed of trying to have all of the ornaments exactly where I went in, and then my little sister would come and it drives me nuts. But I've worked on that and we've got through it, and now they just tell me to go and sit down and don't touch anything. Beautiful here in East Texas. So glad to be. Hello, Deborah. Actually, I would love to go to Texas too. Never been to Texas. So if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. Okay, so I've showed you my DIY booklet to price items. Fantastic, must have, especially for the holiday season coming. If you want to price some of your DIYs and know if you're kind of in the ballpark with that, that's a great booklet. My favorite paint recipes, this is a must-have. I've taken a lot of time, I've tested a lot of different paint recipes, and these are my favorite, work the best for me, and it's a great reference to go back to. I actually printed off one and made it pretty. I have a video where I kind of junk journaled it and gave it a nice front and back, and added some tabs, and you can do that too if you pick up the booklet and put it together. And then this, I did the top and the back, I put some packing tape on it, so if my hands do have paint and stuff on it and I'm flipping through, I'm not going to wreck my whole recipe book. So that's something else. When painting on glass, should we use a primer for the base coat before the chalk paint? Okay, so my trick when I'm painting glass, and I do have a whole video start to finish on painting glass, but the first thing that I like to do, when I first was painting glass, I would just put on a coat of chalk paint right on the glass. After I had really cleaned the glass really well, wiped it with an alcohol pad, I would put on my chalk paint, and it adhered really well. But then I started just giving my glass a slight coat of primer, or a light coat of even just like a white spray paint. You don't have to coat the whole thing, just a light spritz all over it, and then put your chalk paint on top. And I found that worked fantastic. I never have any problems now with chipping or peeling off my glass. So first coat, just give it a little light spritz of some spray paint, and that will help you out. Are signs still selling? Of course, it really depends on your area. Whether you're in the city, whether you're in the country, what's selling where. In my area here, it is still my bestseller. I could make signs. I don't have as much time anymore as I used to because of my channel and filming, but I could make signs every day, and I could sell every one of them, and always do really, really well for them. Now, I have had people say in their area it doesn't do well, so I think it's just kind of trial and error, and just see. Now, the one thing I do find with signs is you have to put a little bit of a twist of something that not everybody is doing, and that's what I like about this Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer method, because they don't look like a Cricut sign. They don't look like just a stenciled sign. They look different, and the one thing that I find, especially when you go to craft shows, is people will come through craft shows. 90% of the people that come through are looking to get ideas. They're looking to get inspired and then go home and recreate what you've created and trying to sell. So that's where it comes into making something that is a little bit different. So when somebody picks it up, they're going to go, oh, I don't really know how to make that. And then they're going to be more apt to buy it because they know they can't recreate it. And with that technique, with this technique with the Mod Podge, I get that a lot. People don't know how I've made it, and it just makes it sell better. Always add little embellishments. I always like to add rusty hinges or rusty something, or just make it look like it's just not a plain ordinary sign. That makes them sell better. The other thing is, do not use a lot of color. If you're going to be selling, stick to your white and black, because white and black will sell and much better because it can go in everybody's home. If you're creating a whole bunch of little shelf sitters and they're pink, not everybody has something in their home that's pink that it's going to match. But if you did that sign with black and then white, it can go into anybody's decor and you're more apt to sell it. So that's a few little pointers. I really go off track here sometimes too. I get very passionate about this stuff, so I hope I'm answering your questions properly. What is your design program? So there's a couple programs if you're wanting to design your own graphics that you can use that work fantastic. I should do a video on this, and I haven't done one yet, on doing graphics from start to finish. And actually, when I'm finished talking about this, I'll go on to my next thought about my channel. You can use Canva. They have a free program. You can design some graphics in there, and it's pretty user-friendly if you're not familiar with designing graphics. And you can also use PicMonkey, and they have a free version too. Same thing. It's pretty easy to use in the beginning if you just want to do basic signs just with basic words, and you can try that out. I'll put the link to, I have a Canva link that I can put down in the description later. You can check that out. I was thinking of doing your Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer method on copper and aluminum for nameplates on steampunk designs. Yeah, that would work perfect. Now, the one thing with this technique is it's a little bit difficult if your surface is really shiny. You'll find when you're wetting it, it's gonna rub off easy if you don't have it painted underneath. The only time that you can kind of on bare metal get this to work really well is like a galvanized pail, something that's a little bit pitted, something where you can get that Mod Podge kind of soaked in it better so it adheres to do the transfer. If you're just doing like a shiny piece of aluminum and you're trying to do this transfer method, it's probably going to be really tricky for you. Don't you have a membership club? Yes, how do I join? Yeah, so this is the one thing that I was going to talk about. I have just a general membership for my channel, and if you join, it's $1.99 a month, and you get a discount code for 70% off all of my graphics anytime. You can buy as many graphics as you want. You can, and the other thing with my graphics, I am more than happy for you to recreate something and sell it. There's no worries about copyright or anything like that. If you've bought a graphic from me, go for it. Make 100 of them, sell as many as you want. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about sharing and getting you, and helping you out. So what I'm looking to do in the future, and I'm hoping to have it started up in November, is I am in the works of starting a master class. And I'm going to add that to my channel membership. And I think I'm still in the planning stage, but I think what I'm going to do, because I know not everybody is interested in the sign making or the graphic transfer, but I think I'm going to do one video a month and add it to my membership, and I will do a sign or a project from the start to the finish, unedited, right from picking the project that I'm going to do to designing the graphics to making it, and then right through to pricing it, start to finish. So that's in the works, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be a little bit of work for me to put it together, but I think it's going to be really helpful for you all that are wanting to sell and make these right from start to finish. So keep an eye out for that. I'd love to learn doing graphics. Please teach us. Yeah, so I need to do, I will do a video on Canva or PicMonkey. They're both very familiar, the same, and I'll do a tutorial step by step. I'm working on Xmas gifts. We'll be doing more homemade gift ideas. Will you be doing more homemade gift ideas? Yes. So haven't started doing Christmas yet, but I have been doing Christmas graphics. So I do have some that I'm designing. Actually, I was designing some this morning, and they're showing up in my Etsy store now, little by bit, little. I have my daughter helping me, who's been fantastic. She's doing all the social media side of my channel and helping me with my Etsy store. My channel has been growing. I'm so blessed and so thankful. My channel has been growing so fast that I can't do everything anymore. It's just too much, and I love doing stuff like this. I try to, everybody that comments on every one of my videos, I try to, it's me personally, answer your questions or even just say thank you for watching. And it's been a lot, and I appreciate so many people messaging and leaving those comments. So, and I've got my daughter now helping me out, so that's freeing up my time to be able to answer your questions in the comments and do that kind of thing. But I got completely sidetracked. So I am in the process of, yes, starting to do some Christmas DIY ideas, put some stuff together. I'm just wrapping up my Halloween and fall decor videos right now. I have another one coming out next week. It'll probably be my last one, which is really great. I did some really neat DIYs on that one. And then switching it to Christmas. What is the best method to make wood edge old looking? So, my favorite way to make a piece of brand new wood look old is my salt wash paint recipe. I can layer up 3 or 4 different colors with my chalk paint recipe, and I can take that piece of brand new wood and make it look like it's 100 years old. It is such a fantastic technique. If you haven't seen those videos where I did it, go back and check them out, because it's definitely my favorite way to transform a piece of wood. And the salt wash paint recipe is also in the booklet here too. Works fantastic. What do you say when ask how you make it, especially if you're trying to keep it different? What do you say when people ask how you make it, especially if you're trying to keep it different for sales? So what I usually do, if it's somebody at a sale, I just say it's magic. It's just magic, you know, you kind of. But I also love sharing the way that I make things. So I usually will tell people, this is the technique, this is how I do it. And 99% of the people are going to probably never venture in and try it themselves, but it never hurts to share how you're doing it. But it always, I think whenever you're doing that technique and making a sign, it just looks different, it looks more authentic, and they sell better. I am really struggling to sand the salt one. Yeah, so the salt one, it's messy. So make sure you're doing it in an area. When I'm usually doing it, I do it right outside, because when you're sanding down, you're going to have a real mess underneath. I do it outside. I set up my sawhorses and do it there. And it takes a lot of sanding, especially if you put on more than 1 or 2 layers with the salt. And I always start with either, sometimes even a 60 grit sandpaper or an 80 grit. Don't try to use a 120 or a 220 grit sandpaper with the salt wash paint, because it will take you forever. And before you even sand, take your scraper over the top of the wood and get most of that sand off first, and then go back in and sand. So that might be a tip for you. I just love your ideas and can't wait. I would love to see a snowman, snowflake ideas. I have all kinds of Christmas ideas. I've actually been scouring. In the evenings, I'll go on Pinterest and I'll scour through and I'll see what everybody else is doing and get an idea. So I have a whole board full of Christmas ideas. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. Have you ever thought of using a scroll saw? I have one. It's great. I do rustic signs. I don't have a really good scroll saw right now. I have used them in the past, and actually what I loved using, I haven't done a lot of really big projects. I love making hearts with my scroll saw, especially in February. I'll make little hearts with it, and then, you know, make them rustic looking. And but I need to pull my scroll saw out and use it more. Okay, so I was just going to show you I know most of you are familiar with my Etsy store and my graphics, but I have all kinds that I have. Maybe it's easier if I bring this down. I can bring the camera down so I can show you. These are some of the graphics that I've made for the fall and Halloween season. So if you're still doing that, then check these out. This is one of my favorites, the apple orchard. And like I said, I love making graphics. I find it so relaxing and I can sit and do it for hours. This one looks really nice all together on a piece of rustic wood, layering up, doing this one I've done before with my candle wax technique for the paint underneath. Looks really nice. I love fall most of all. Now, all of these sheets that I've printed out, I am going to coffee stain them, and then you can frame them. You can put them in a little clipboard and hang them up. If you were going to do the reverse technique, of course, all of these would have to be reversed. If you're getting them in the Etsy store, they're already one of the files is already reversed, so you don't have to worry about that. But I printed all these out, and I'll just coffee stain them and use them in some sort of a DIY. Love this one. This one's really nice this one would be good just to frame and put it in a really chippy frame and put it at your front door for Halloween night. Wicked Without Coffee. I have done this one before, and I found an old coffee pot at the thrift store. I painted it orange and then added this graphic on it. It was really cute. And this is a nice Witch's Brew quote. This one's really nice. This one, I'll show you in a second what I did with this one. I love this one. I put it on a candle. And again, this one's neat you could put this at your front door, do it on a piece of wood, put it in a wreath. That one would be good. Spooky. And this is the pumpkin faces that I was talking about that I did on this. And I used all 4 and put it on the votive holder. These are fantastic to put on bottles. You can use them like little potion bottles. You can paint your bottles and do some distress painting on them. Actually, what I like to do is I'll paint them white, and then I will rub on some dirt right into the paint, and then I'll decoupage these labels on. Looks really cute. Little October sign. And this one, I actually just did a DIY with that one too, and I'll show you what I just finished. So with the October 31. So what I did with this one is, this is one of my homemade napkins, and I put it on the candle. This was an old pillar candle I've had around for forever, but I melted it into the candle. Now, I had a lot of people concerned about burning with the napkin on it. So this is what I've come up with. If you're concerned about it, burn your candle down until you can fit a votive in it. Push your votive in it. You've got your candle. It'll last forever now, and you can just keep replacing your votives and not have to worry about this melting down. And people have said they'd have had problems with the napkin maybe catching on fire and being a bit of a hazard. I've never had that issue, but this will solve that problem completely if you melt that down and put the votive in. And this, I'm on an angle here, but look at this bottle. And I put the poison label on it. I coffee stained it, and this, you're seeing a sneak peek here. This is in my video next week, but this is air dry clay that I put on a pickle jar, and I've added the label on. Love this one. And then I just went to my garden. I got a whole bunch of old dead flowers. I think it's fantastic for Halloween. So, maybe I'll go through some of these different. I've been really obsessed with paper lately and doing paper crafts. This one is just a piece of paper that I did some of my script writing on, and I painted it with Mod Podge and then let it dry. Almost gives like a vellum look to your paper. That one is really cool. Another just coffee stained piece. And then these are all just coffee dyed pieces of paper that I've used with my different graphics. And I have a video coming out on Saturday with this method. It's kind of a whole bunch of paper, coffee dyeing paper with a twist, actually. So you'll have to stay tuned for that one. And I see my computer going like crazy. I got all kinds of questions. So we're going to go back up here and I'll get caught up. How do we become members to your group? Okay, so if you go to my main, I got to come up even more here. Hope you guys can see me fooling around with this camera. There we go. If you go to the main page of my channel, you'll see a link there and it says join, and you can click on there and you can join. And like I said, if you join my channel, you get a discount code for 70% off of all of my graphics anytime. And if you don't want to join my channel, I also have a newsletter, and if you get a newsletter, you get 50% off of all of my graphics too. And I think at the beginning of the chat, I put the links to both my newsletter and my channel membership, so you can check that out. What design program do you use? So like I said before, I'm using, you can either use Canva or you can use PicMonkey. They both work really great. South African and New Zealand, Madeline, welcome. I know I'm behind where you all are as far as live video, but you mentioned something about a book for pricing. Can somebody give me some details on where? Okay, so I'm just gonna grab it. I talk way too much. I have a booklet, and it is a step-by-step booklet. I also have a video too that will step you through it also, and it goes through and itemizes everything on how you can price your DIY projects and come to the final retail and wholesale price. This is really handy. It's in my Etsy store, and you can find it there. Okay, I kind of set up, I don't know how long everybody wants to kind of watch me work away here, but I was going to do up a couple of my graphics. I've got some coffee stained. I'm just going to pick one here that would be a good one to do. I was going to coffee stain one of these graphics and show you how I go through it. See if I can find a nice one. I think we'll do this one. I like this one. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm catching up about, and you're talking about Mod Podge on copper. A good idea for any metal is to sand it and scuff it up a bit and then apply. Great tip. That's a really great tip, Joe. Yeah, and just scuff it up a little bit. It just gives that Mod Podge something to grab onto when you're doing the transfer method. I want to share an amazing find. On a whim, I bought a can of Durham's water putty to use as a wood filler. It's awesome and cheap, and I have not heard of that. So I'm going to be looking for Durham's water putty. Anybody knows anything about that? Send me a link down in the comments here, and I'll check it out. Your book, where do we find it? So my book is listed in my Etsy store, and if you go to any one of my videos, you'll find the link to my Etsy store down in the description, and I'll also have it here at the beginning of the chat, and you can find the link there. What time is it in Canada now? Right now it is 2:09 in the afternoon. Okay, I am going to bring this camera down. Let's coffee stain this, and I'll show you my process for that. So what I like to do is I have just a metal ruler, and before I coffee stain, I like to have a little bit of a ragged edge. I don't like just the straight edge of the paper, so if I get my metal ruler, I can just rip it along here. And see how it just kind of gives that edge? Just a little bit of a nice touch to it. So I always do that before I coffee stain paper. And you know what? It's just, you don't have to be fancy about it. If it rips a little bit where you don't want to, it's all about looking authentic. Yeah, like look at that. See, isn't that great? And then you can just do all four sides. And the nice thing about doing this also too is the coffee stain will pick it up a little bit different also and make it darker and make it look really nice. So there, we've taken a plain sheet of paper and we've now made it look a lot more rustic and ready to coffee stain. Now, I just kind of cheat sometimes when I'm in a hurry and I want to coffee stain paper. Okay, if I'm using a colored image printed on an inkjet, can I use the reverse transfer method, or do I need to decoupage the whole thing? So if you are using an inkjet, that process, that transfer method can be a little bit tricky, but it can be done. And I have a full video on an actual photo from when we were camping using the inkjet to do the transfer method. And it definitely can work. Catch that video if you can, because I do a really thorough step-by-step and show you all the tricks when you're using an inkjet. So it works out really well for you. Okay, so I have just instant coffee in a little bit of water and dissolve it. And that's all I do. I just have a little sponge it, and everything I do is messy. I'm always in a mess. You'd think I would put something down underneath, but I'm very impatient and I don't. And I just dab it on and let it kind of pool some places where it wants to. And you'll just take your piece of paper to the next level really easy. And then what you can do with this after you've done this process is you can just blow it dry with your blow dryer. And sorry, I'm just trying to catch my breath. And that's all that you need to do. Just dab it on. And you've taken a plain piece of paper and make it look really old and vintage. Set it aside, use your hair dryer and dry it. And you're going to be left with something that looks like this. Old and vintage looking. And you can also, after, oh no, I'm not going to set that down in the coffee now that I've made a mess, but I like using some pigment ink. And after it's dried, you can take your pigment ink and just rub it along the edge of that paper. And it just gives it even a little bit more of that aged look. Frame this. You can decoupage it. You can junk journal with it, scrapbook, any mixed media project. So now that I've printed off all of those fall graphics and everything, that's what I'm going to do with all of them. Coffee stain them and make them look old. So that's just a little project that you can try for your holiday decor for fall and Halloween. And yeah, this is one of my favorites, decoupaged with that method. I tore it around the edge, used a little bit of that pigment ink, and then put it on the jar. It looks fantastic. Okay. Tea stain. Yes, same thing. You can use tea. You can steep some tea and then use that instead of using the coffee. Works great. Hello from Scotland. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap it up. And thank you everyone for following along and all the support here in my channel. And I appreciate it all. So we will see you in the next video. And take care and enjoy the rest of your day.